Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tami Patzer.
Hi, this is Tami Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Maryon Stewart. Maryon is a renowned healthcare expert specializing in PMS Menopause, and she's a pioneer in the field of non-drug medicine. Using her years of knowledge and expertise, she coaches women in understanding the information, tools, and techniques needed to reclaim their well-being. Since setting up the Women's Nutritional Advisory Service and subsequently the Natural Health Advisory Service, she has helped tens of thousands of women from all around the world. Research shows that more than 90% of women struggling with PMS and menopause symptoms are symptom-free within 4 to 6 months after following Maryon's program. Marion has written 27 popular self-help books, several of which have been on the bestseller list, written regular columns for numerous daily newspapers and magazines, had her own radio show, contributed to a variety of TV series, including Channel 4's Model Behavior, where she was the nutritionalist, and Marion has also created and presented her own TV series, The Really Useful Health Show. She is now focusing on virtual health promotions, providing online workshops to help women navigate perimenopause and menopause with her successful drug-free program. She has recently had more than 1 million views on her Facebook Live films in just 3 months. Welcome, Marion.
Hello, it's lovely to be here.
Wow, 3 million people in just, or 1 million people in just 3 months. That is just phenomenal. So, Marion, tell me a little bit more about who you help and who your audience is.
Well, I tend to help women, obviously over the years. I started out treating women with PMS based on 200 medical papers that we found that were all about that subject, but didn't involve taking any drugs. And it all happened quite by accident because my husband at the time and some of his colleagues were setting up the British Society for Nutritional Medicine. So they had 10,000 medical papers on different subjects, and I was on maternity leave after having our second baby, and they gave them to me thinking I had nothing better to do than sort through them. And then I found the 200, and that was kind of how the journey began. Because we did quite a lot of research in the early days, and we found that women were suffering from horrific symptoms, things like they were depressed, they were having panic attacks and palpitations, they were feeling nervous, anxious, tired, so that they felt that they couldn't cope, they were aching, and all sorts of other self-esteem issues. Their relationships were falling apart. And obviously, as time progressed and they got older, we started helping women going through perimenopause and menopause. And then they had the additional symptoms like the hot flashes, the night sweats, and they were just like a shadow of their former selves, clinging on by their fingernails and completely unable to function and terrified. They're women who can't recognize themselves because they feel like they've been possessed by an alien. So very often I'm their last resort because they've tried to get help from their doctor, they've tried to self-help with all sorts of things, they've asked friends for recommendations, and they really feel that they are scared of what the future holds for them and desperate to get some kind of resolution to their suffering.
Wow. I mean, it's such an issue because obviously with women being more than 50% of the population, and we all face this as we get older, what did you discover was the big difference between what you do and what traditional doctors and medical people typically do?
Well, I think what happened with us in the early days, if I can go back to the beginning of the story so that you can understand, is that when I started this, which was in the 80s, when I found those 200 medical papers, the media got hold of the story because of a patient that came to the clinic to see my husband, who was a journalist. And she wrote about it in the local newspaper, and then it got picked up by Cosmo and a big paper in England called the News of the World. And I had 10,000 letters in the space of 10 days. And from then on, it just captured the attention of the media. So I ended up being dragged onto breakfast television. And sometimes we would have over 2,000 letters a day. So we had literally hundreds of thousands of people contacting us in a year. And from that, we started to do research. And because of the profile of it, we did research with the local hospital, local family planning clinic. We did some research in the workplace at a mental health daycare center, in the workplace at a company called Kimberly-Clark, and also our own patients. And we measured levels of nutrients at a specialist laboratory in London. And we found that between 50 to 80% of the women had low magnesium stores and other nutrients like iron, zinc, essential fatty acids, calcium, and so on, were in short supply. And those nutrients are necessary for normal hormone function and for normal brain chemistry. And what normally happens when you've got circulating optimum levels of nutrients circulating, the brain chemistry operates normally. But if you imagine the brain chemistry is a bit like the conductor in the orchestra, if you're short of nutrients, let's say, and if you then go on and have a baby or two and you do a bit of breastfeeding, your mother nature makes sure the baby takes the best of the nutrients when you're pregnant through your placenta and then through the breast milk when you're feeding. And so at the end of the day, your low levels become even lower. And it's unsustainable because the brain chemistry then becomes like a one-armed conductor. And the orchestra doesn't sound too harmonious. And the end result is that your hormones don't function well. So what we do for women prior to the menopause is we teach them how to meet their nutritional needs. We teach them how to actually get their levels back into an optimum range so that it has a normalizing effect on their brain chemistry. And that means that their hormones then stand a good chance of functioning normally. So if they've had symptoms of PMS, those symptoms disappear. So we get the symptoms of PMS under control within the space of 4 months in 94% of patients. Then if you add into the mix the perimenopause, which is 5 years around the menopause, when estrogen levels are falling because the ovaries are stopping functioning. And then you go into the menopause, which happens at the average age of 51. Well, 100 years or so ago, we weren't living much past 50, so it didn't matter much. But it matters a great deal now, because if you've got low levels of nutrients and you're compounding that with falling levels of estrogen, you're going to be in a terrible state. So when you get to perimenopause and menopause, we're not only teaching women how to make up for the shortfall in terms of their nutrient levels, but we're also teaching them about how to consume naturally occurring estrogen as part of their everyday routine. And because naturally occurring estrogen looks so similar under the microscope to estrogen, you can actually fool the brain back into thinking you've got normal circulating estrogen. And those symptoms like hot flashes and night sweats, which are simply the brain trying to kickstart the ovaries back into function, which is never going to happen, you can turn those symptoms off completely because the brain thinks you've got normal circulating estrogen again. So we find that over 90% of the women going through perimenopause and menopause are completely symptom-free within the space of 5 months. And it isn't a magic wand, although sometimes it feels like it. It's based on published medical research, which is out there in the public domain. So at the end of all my books, I have all the medical references to support every single aspect of our program.
Wow. So you actually, when you work with different women, how do you start to understand each woman? Because obviously every woman who arrives is at a different place. So how would you start working with them?
Well, they fill in a questionnaire for me and a diet diary. So that's a detailed questionnaire which talks about everything from their medical history to their symptoms and everything that's going on in terms of problems they have with relationships, self-esteem, work life, and so on. And they also keep a diet diary for me for a week. So then I have a really good idea about what's going on. We have a consultation then of an hour. So I've got plenty of time to ask them tons of questions and to build the picture even more so that I know exactly where to get them started, how to get them started. And then I spend the second half of the consultation explaining everything to them and explaining the recommendations. And then following the consultation, I write the program for them so that they've got everything in writing, so they know exactly what they should be eating, what snacks to have, which supplements they should be taking to start with, and all the other aspects of lifestyle changes like exercise, relaxation. So I help them to get established, and then they fill in daily diaries and symptom charts for me. And we have consultations going forward on a regular basis so that I can look after them and work with them and help them to create everything from their shopping list to menus, and to really deal with any little hiccups we have along the way. And so I can adjust it. And we work as a team, and it's really effective.
I wanted to ask you about some of the big myths involved with this whole topic, because obviously there are probably very few people who have as much actual experience as you do. And before I ask you about the myths, I do want to ask you about the Facebook group and the Facebook Live videos that you have created, because you literally created something and went public with it just a short while ago with the Facebook group. Can you tell me a little bit more about the group and what it's called and what happens there?
Yes, actually, I set up the Facebook. I was on a course to learn how to broadcast on Facebook Live because I don't really know much about technical things, and I wanted to learn how to do that. And it was during that day that I suddenly realized I've always wanted to set up a community to help women and to enlighten them, and so that they know that they don't need to suffer anymore. So I just went ahead and set up the Facebook group that day because I learned that I could. And that was only about 4 months or so ago. And as soon as I started it and I started making these little Facebook Live films, people started coming to the group. And I realized within the space of a week, I had about 1,000 women, I think. I can't remember. It was just so fast. And we've got about, I think there's about 7,000 members now. And they are absolutely starving, not just hungry, but they're starving for information that's going to help them, because they're just chasing their own tails. They're going round in circles, trying so many things that aren't working, and they are just so desperate. And some of the stories are beyond sad. Relationships just breaking up, partners leaving, they can't relate to their partner anymore, they're losing their jobs, or at least they feel like they're about to lose their job, and their self-esteem is in the bin. And so they come together as a community. So apart from getting my help and advice, they can also support each other, which I think is very important. So what I'm trying to do with them, because obviously I can't provide one-to-one help for everybody, is I'm trying to give them some advice. I've got a new book, which is called Beat Menopause the Natural Way, and a film that goes with it, which is called Get Fit for Midlife. And so they're downloading those, and then I'm taking them on a journey. So it's a recovery journey, and we're going through the process of my program, if you like, but in a group setting. So that's my challenge this year, is to try it, rather than just helping one-to-one people, is to try it and see if I can actually translate that through video and through the internet, which is effectively like interactive TV, to be able to help lots of women all at once. I did it once before, actually, by accident, funnily enough, in Australia, when I was on a book tour. And I was invited to do a series of workshops in different places around Australia. And the girl who was organizing it just pulled the plug 2 days before. I don't think she'd sold enough tickets. And I was left with about 350 women who paid to get help, but they had no help. So this was before things like Facebook and video online, I just did an audio thing for them. And it was amazingly successful. I even had a doctor on there who, when I went back the following year and did the same thing again, she came on the line and said that I'd completely revolutionized her way of thinking. She'd overcome her symptoms and she was now able to help her own patients using the same techniques. So there's lots of merit in coming together as a group, because a lot of the women who have come have expressed the fact that they felt so isolated. They felt like it was only happening to them. It was only they were the ones who were awake all night. It was only them who were feeling so panicked and depressed and scared. And it was only them who couldn't bear to be touched by their partner, and who never really wanted sex again because their libido had disappeared. But actually, when they came together as a group, they realized it wasn't only them, and it was something common to this particular life stage. And so I can assure them that all those symptoms can be overcome, which is obviously amazing if you think that this is the beginning of the end, to realize that actually it's a whole new beginning.
It is very interesting, because we can expect our lives at 50, that really is a true middle place to be now. It isn't like we can expect only to live into our 70s or 80s. They're saying that with health the way it is today, we can expect to live a lot longer than that. What is the name of your Facebook group?
The Facebook group is called Natural Menopause, Making the Midlife Switch.
So Midlife Switch.
Yes, so it was called Midlife Switch originally, but we changed it to Natural Menopause, Making the Midlife Switch. And Midlife Switch came about because I had a kind of light bulb moment, I suppose, where a few months ago, where I was thinking, what am I trying to do with women? Where am I trying to take them from? And what's the destination? So we're trying to take them from being, and this is the switch, it's stressed, washed out, irritable, tired, confused, and in hormone hell or hormone havoc. So that's how they start. And then we're trying to get them to the point where they're sexy, maybe serene, wise, intuitive, turbocharged, and they have happy hormones. So that's the goal. And so making the midlife switch is what it's all about. But obviously they need to understand too that it's natural menopause, and that's why I renamed the group.
Yeah, I really think natural menopause makes a lot of sense, because especially when you're talking about it being drug-free, because in traditional Western medicine, it's all about, here, take this pill or take hormone replacements. And then, of course, they always forget about all of the side effects to all of those different things. So
in my new book, so on that very point, in my new book, there is a whole chapter on hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
The review of the world literature, and I did it with 2 hormone experts, one from America and one from England, who are really key experts in the field. And so we've interpreted what all the research shows, because it's so confusing. And I don't think anyone's ever done that before. So that's chapter 4 in the new book. So anybody who's taking hormones should not come off them quickly and suddenly. They need to get established on an alternative and wean off the hormones. Otherwise, they'll have awful withdrawal symptoms, and it can make the situation even worse. And anyone who's thinking about taking hormones should read that chapter so that they actually can evaluate whether they want to take the risks, and if they do, which kind of hormone replacement therapy they want to try. But in my experience, they don't need to do that, because we never use hormone replacement therapy. We just do it naturally.
So where can people find the Beat Menopause the Natural Way? And you also have a video about Get Fit for Midlife on
Yes.
how to implement? Where can they find that?
They're on a link, which is at www.maryonstewart.com/book. And my name is MaryonStewart.com/book. And they'll find information about it in my group, and also they'll find information about it on my website.
So, Marion, what would you say, if you were to sum it up in a short way, what would you say that your big message and big why is behind your midlife switch project?
I think the biggest message is that women don't need to suffer and that they can reclaim their well-being at midlife. I think you talked about the myths before. It's a myth that you only need to take hormone replacement therapy to get through this stage in your life, because you can do it perfectly naturally. Your ovaries are never going to function again, so you've got to look at doing something. And it's a myth to think that if you're suffering severely, it's only hormone replacement therapy. And also the fact that we're not just focusing on overcoming the symptoms of the menopause. As you rightly pointed out, many of us are blessed with so many extra years. And it's during that time that when we're not protected by estrogen, we have a much greater risk of getting the bone thinning disease, osteoporosis, or heart disease, and dementia. And who wants all those extra years if you're going to be stuck being sick? So very fortunately, a lot of the recommendations that help us to overcome the flushing and the night sweats also help us to prevent those conditions. So what I tend to do is get people to sort out their short-term symptoms, and then we leave them on a maintenance plan to help them stay healthy for the rest of their lives. So the big message is, not only do you not have to suffer going through the menopause, but you can also be in the driving seat for the rest of your life, knowing how to keep yourself in good shape. And that's my mission, that all women should have that knowledge so that they can actually put it to good use.
And live a longer, healthier life because they have the right foundations. I think that's really important too, because
and they go off and do such lovely things. I mean, I can think of, just one patient I can think of straight away who was suicidal. She was about to get divorced. The doctor had offered her antidepressants. Well, she just overcame all her symptoms. She had a vagina that was so dry, she described it as a burning fireball, so she couldn't have any physical relations. Well, within the matter of months, she was back to normal function. And she then went on to train as a healer. And she's been working as a healer now, and she loves her life and she loves her relationship. She's back to other people who... I've got another patient who's a publicist who is a really high flyer, but she wasn't sleeping. Her whole life was falling apart. And within the space of about 4 months, we fixed her up. She's absolutely flying again, loving her life again, and all the symptoms are behind her. That's the kind of thing that I hear every single day. I hear it every single week, every single month. It's music to my ears. Women don't need to suffer, and they can go on and have amazing lives, and they can reinvent themselves at midlife and go on and do all the things that they enjoy in life, embrace being a grandparent, embrace being a lover, and enjoy their own self-esteem, because they can.
Wow, that's just really fascinating, because it just says it right there. When you start about 4 months ago and you start a Facebook group and just start doing some Facebook lives talking about it, and in 1 week you had 1,000 people, and now you have like 7,000 people, that really tells you that people really, really want this information. So where can we find out more about your services? I know you also have a top 10 tips available. Where can we find that?
That's on my website, which is maryonstewart.com. So again, I've got a MaryonStewart.com. So everything is on the website, and there are links. I run courses as well now for people in groups. I'm going to be setting up a membership site as well, and they'll find the link also to the Facebook group on the website. So come and join us. Come and be part of the community and just come and benefit from the wisdom. And as time goes on, I'm going to be inviting other experts to come on board and talk as the women get over their symptoms and they're ready for the next phase in their lives. There's all sorts of wise people out there that can come and join us and help us to increase our well-being and just to fall in love with ourselves again, which is what we should be doing because we're so much wiser now at midlife than we ever were before. As long as we're feeling well, we can put that wisdom to great use.
Well, Marion, I really appreciate all the time that you've taken with me today. And I'm really happy that I can share in your success with your programs in helping to promote you. So again, everyone, if you want to learn more about Maryon Stewart's books, the book is Beat Menopause the Natural Way with an accompanying film, Get Fit for Midlife. And you can get that at maryonstewart.com/book. Go to Facebook and join the group because it is just jam-packed full of information. And of course, you will find out that you're not alone. So thank you so much, Marion. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think, well, people can get their questions answered in the group. I think I haven't probably explained that. And I also do online workshops where people can come and those are free. They can just come and join me and come to get a bit more information about what's going on in their body at this life stage and some tips about how to help themselves if they want to, or to get some help on some level, whether it's on a one-to-one or in a group setting.
Well, thank you so much, Marion.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
This is Tami Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tami Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.